Well, I finally finished the first Murderbot book, and man, it was pretty good. Hello and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're reviewing and reacting to a book I just read, All Systems Red, the Murderbot Diaries. Yes, this is the first of many books written by Martha Wells. There's a show that's streaming on Apple TV Plus right now where they go over the first season. I haven't seen it yet, but I've done a chapter by chapter review and reaction here on the channel. The playlist will be listed below. If you'd like to follow along and start from chapter 1, please do so. You can also buy the book. There's another link in the description, and you can take a look, and it'll help out the channel if you purchase the book or anything else using that link, and I'd greatly appreciate it. But going to the book, this book is fantastic. It's a great book. It is easy to read. It's simple, it's thoughtful, and there are interesting tropes within this. They call it a novella. It's about 150 or 60 pages. If you are a quick reader, you could easily finish this in a day. If you like to take some time, there's wonderful little breaking points within the chapters where it breaks up and we move along with the story, so you're not just bogged down by aimless narrative or incredible descriptions of mountains you may never get to see. It's pretty tight. This book is a very tight book and very tight storytelling. So I'm going to go over some of the things I liked about the book and some of the things I didn't like about the book. But overall, one thing I really loved is I really loved our main character. Our main character is Murderbot. Yes, Murderbot is our main character. And yes, that is the only thing that is remotely risque, is its name. Everything about this book screams, this is something else I like, screams adolescence. A 12-year-old could read this book. It would be great for a 12-year-old, actually. There's not one word or anything. Actually, there was one, acrid. I had to look it up, acrid. But most of the other content with it, like, it's just easy. It's simple. It's pretty smart. It's thoughtful. The point of view is interesting, and I think would be great for a child to take a look at. I know that when I was younger, I had the opportunity to watch professional wrestling growing up. Wasn't a big fan, but I did enjoy the spectacle and the show and the characters and the caricatures and everything. And what that always taught me was that, you know, people have different personalities and they have these caricatures and they act outside of themselves. Sometimes they're extra, is what they call it. This book identifies that, right? Sometimes people are in a role. Murderbot, our main character, is a cyborg who has had a governor module in its system that kept it from acting out, kept it from being extra, staying within the protocol. Remember, it's a cyborg, half human, half mechanics, machine. And that way it could be controlled, but it still had these organic parts. It could heal. It could do all these other things. Murderbot was is more machine now than man, twisted and evil. This one's not evil. As a matter of fact, they go on to tell you in the first chapter how it's not evil and what it does, why it calls it, or excuse me, in what it's done to do that. And basically, it's read or it's taken in 35,000 hours of entertainment. It's basically watch a bunch of TV, 35,000 hours. And that's what it likes to do in its spare time. So while it is a security unit, while it is something that has projectile weapon and energy weapons in its hands, like Mega Man, I think, it definitely is scary. And the book, the writer, Martha, she goes out of her way to explain, yeah, you shouldn't be scared of this person. You're inside this thing. You're inside its own head. It's pretty interesting. What I also like I said, it's cynical. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it doesn't take anyone else too seriously either. Throughout the entire book, Murderbot is so course-driven in its thinking, not in how it does things, but in its thinking. It's course-driven so much so that even dangerous things don't freak it out. In the very first chapter, and this is a little bit of a spoiler if you've not read the book, but if you have, in the very first chapter, it saves two scientists by jumping into a pit, pulling a scientist out, pulling out its projectile weapon, engaging with this large animal by shooting down the throat and then up through its head as if it shot it in the brain, and then it goes on to save these two scientists. It also acts very human when it does it. The way it's written, though, which is pretty smart, is a lot of the drama, the action, and the dialogue take place at the bottom of the paragraphs. I believe that's intentional. It's intentional to show that Murderbot doesn't take anything more than anything else. Everything is on a level playing field. Part of its cybernetics, possibly. But regardless, it does see everything as a work, as a play. Doesn't take anyone or anything too seriously because it knows it's not that big a deal. And it's stronger and more capable than anything in the room. And if it's not, it makes plans to deal with it. You see that throughout the rest of the book also. That comes to my next point. That this is probably, of all the books I've ever read, this is probably the closest thing to a Japanese isekai. And essentially, if you're not familiar with what an isekai is, it's a story that's told where a human is dropped into another world, another universe, and is maybe overpowered or stronger than everything else. The Matrix is kind of an isekai because we drop Neo into the world of the Matrix from the human world, and it becomes Neo becomes more powerful, stronger than everything else. Similar situation here. You're following a cyborg who is stronger, more capable, more resourceful, has consumed all of this entertainment and uses those moments to be human, but it's stolen from this entertainment and stolen from the people around him. It's not something it just learned from its own environment, like a human. Very interesting stuff that you have this like overpowered being that doesn't see itself as being overpowered, but knows it has the capacity to do so. Pretty interesting. But going back to the way that the passages are written, in putting the drama at the bottom of paragraph so it evens out all of the content, it does not evens out. So it de-dramatizes some of the content a little bit, because if you're reading through a paragraph and you kind of doze off or cloud up a little bit in your own head, you get to the bottom and it's like, oh, and then Murderbot killed those people or killed those things. You're just like, whoa, what happened? And you have to read back and see, I have ADHD, so that happened to me a few times, especially in the earlier chapters. Once again, short book. So once that started happening, I started realizing, oh, this is written this way intentionally. We're getting the viewpoint of Murderbot. And its viewpoint is different than what ours would be, where we would lead with the drama. You'd find a way to put the drama or the impact at the top of a paragraph. I think that was pretty interesting. I've harped on that way too much. But another thing I like about this is Murderbot is your narrator. But Murderbot's also an unreliable narrator. And you get that a lot at the very, very beginning. You have a group of humans that it's dealing with. It comes to you as a security unit that's been contracted out to protect these humans as they survey a part of an alien planet in order to see if there is any sort of income-driven decisions that could be made by a corporation on this planet. At least that's what you're told, which isn't exactly true. And that's how it kind of begins with Murderbot's unreliable narrator situation. Murderbot also is a little introverted. It's not extroverted. It's not like Halo, where Master Chief is, I got a job to do, or I'm gonna take them back that bomb. One of the coolest video game moments ever, by the way, Master Chief escorting this massive bomb through space, and there's a giant space battle in Halo 2, and it takes it all the way and puts it into the alien ship, and anyway, awesome. It's like Master Chief, except for it's a 12-year-old who's cynical. That's Murderbot, and who's watched a ton of television. That's Murderbot. It knows it's capable, It doesn't take things too seriously. It has a job to do, and it also doesn't want these humans to know that it's got this governor module hacked, and it can just operate however it wants to. That's the trick. That is the MacGuffin of the show. And I know I skipped past the unreliable narrator. I'll come back to that. But that's the MacGuffin of the show. Is that it needs to, or excuse me, of the book. It needs to, Murderbot needs to continue to operate as a security unit so it can continue to watch this entertainment and do whatever it wants to while simultaneously act as a security unit for this survey team. There's a little bit of skepticism, and of course it gets found out. But it's a great moment, and it's really cool to watch this introverted security cyborg. I keep on thinking of like Android 17 and 18 and 16 from, actually Android 16 specifically from Dragon Ball Z as a cyborg. It continues to operate as a, well, I'm just doing my job. And of course, every once in a while, it lets it slip that the governor module doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work. But it continues to do its job as best it can, and of course, it gets found out one way or another. Going back to the unreliable narrator, it thinks the humans don't like it because the constructs that are like it in their world aren't treated as humans. Cyborgs aren't treated as humans. It's as if cyborgs have showed up now and they were just walking around. What's the movie with Will Smith, the AI movie, where he has to kind of hunt it down because he thinks one of these robots is an iRobot. He thinks one of these robots has become a murderer, and he has to kind of hunt it down because it doesn't follow Isaac Asimov's 3 rules of whatever. That's the universe that you're led to believe is taking place here. Not that one specifically, but a universe similar. Well, that's not the case with this crew. This crew sees Murderbot as a human. It treats it with respect and thoughtfulness. And Murderbot thinks that it doesn't like them, or that they don't like it. Very interesting. Very interesting. In the show, and I've said it quite a bit, in the show, the character of Murderbot is cast as Alexander Skarsgård. But in the book, it's clearly an it. There is no sexual orientation, and as a matter of fact, it mentions that when it's watched entertainment feed and sex happens, it's bored. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. The last thing I'll say that I like about this book, and we've already talked about how short it is and how interesting the unreliable narrator situation is, how cynical Murderbot is, and how the pacing of the book is really, really, really nice. The last thing I'll say about this that I really like is the immaturity of our main character. Phenomenal start to a series of books. It's the first of many diaries. It's pretty good that the maturity of our main character is going to allow it to grow. And thankfully, because the governor module is turned off of its own volition. Pretty interesting. I like that. We have 7, 8, 9. Someone mentioned it in the comments. Several more key pieces of text. Some that are the same length as this novella, some that are a little bit longer, but we're really going to see how the Murderbot grows. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I'll put my predictions at the end of this video, of course. There are a few things about this book I actually didn't like, to be frank with you. I'm not the biggest book reader, so feel free to criticize. Whatever, leave room for some constructive conversation, but feel free to criticize. Some things I didn't like was the world that is built leads you to shape it of your own will. Meaning they're on a planet and they have a habitat, this survey team, and the entire book takes place on this planet. They have a habitat in this survey team, well, except for the final chapter. But they only describe the habitat loosely. I think of the ship from Aliens, or from Alien, as what it kind of looks like, but I also am thinking of The Martian as the habitat, or something similar. You're led to fill that out on your own. which is the mature thing to do. Of course, imagination is important when it comes to reading. However, there are times in the book, and especially in the middle chapters when they go to the Deltfall settlement, where Murderbot moves around the Deltfall settlement and up and around, and it would have been nice to have some more clear understanding of what that habitat looks like for me to kind of conceptualize the tactic and the strategy that was being used in that moment, right? It would have just helped me. What I'll say is that extends to every part of the book. That same kind of, hey, we could have described this a little bit more, provided some sort of, hey, this is like this from this show, especially because I'm assuming we're dealing with Earth here. We could have described a show, a habitat, inside this book from some sort of entertainment that Murderbot could say, oh, this reminds me of this, or this is like this, because it has consumed so much entertainment. Maybe do that once or twice to really put us in that world. I mean, we don't even know what color the sky is on this planet. We do know it's surrounded by a single ring, but we don't know a lot about it. I am imagining fauna and colors that are all over the place that Roy G. Biv and any sort of our nature and grounded coloring doesn't remotely look like. I'm imagining tropical bliss and vibrant things, but somebody else may not, right? Somebody else may see it as something more grounded, like what we see on Earth, or something that looks like a video game. So that's something else that I think I could have used, was a little bit more environmental representation in the text, just so that I could have some sort of visual understanding of what's happening. And like I said, that extends to everything in the book outside of Dr. Minsay and Murderbot, which are described in super well. Speaking on that, there are other characters. There's the Dr. Minsay, which you come to find out is this high up, voted on person in their universe, super important. And you've got Murderbot. Outside of that, though, you've got Pinley and Garathrin, you've got Rati, a few other characters, but you don't know much about them. You know that they're human, except for Garathrin, which is an augmented human, which is similar to a cyborg, but not quite as much. Still has all the human rights, but maybe has some enhancements. And I would have liked to have had a little bit more with them. With more books coming out, I imagine we will. Even with how the ending ends up, I imagine Murderbot will be back with this group. Because I like this group, I just don't know anything about them. They have a whole civilization, they have a whole world that's unique. Some of them have multiple partners, multiple mates. Even Dr. Minsay, they say at the very end, does. That she lives on a farm with her family and partners, and it's massive, and they make a quasi joke about how they don't even know how many children or kids live on this farm because there's so many of them. It would be nice to know that their whole world, their whole thing. It would be, I'm lucky that I've gotten to see and do some of the things that I've gotten to see and do in my life. And so I could conceptualize a lot of what was happening. But if you were a 13-year-old kid and all you ever knew was the internet, but you have never played Final Fantasy or worked in the service industry or done some of the things that I did, I don't know that you could understand some of the tropes that were taking place. And I'd be happy to give examples if someone wanted to know. But I don't think a 13-year-old kid nowadays would understand a lot of this stuff. And I kind of hope that we dive into a little bit more of that in the next few chapters or books, as it were. The last thing I'll say that I didn't necessarily enjoy is the sci-fi was all over the place. Like all over the place. And as someone who enjoys sci-fi, I enjoy fantasy. A lot of this channel is sci-fi fantasy. They have projectile weapons and energy weapons. They've got hoppers, which I imagine are kind of like helicopters. They don't really explain what they are, but I imagine they're like helicopters where you sit and it can in some sort of containment thing, whether it's contained by metal or whatever, and it hops from place to place in a short form entertainment, or excuse me, short form travel situation. But I would have liked the sci-fi to be a little bit more on the nose. I'd like to have understood more about that, and the politics as well. The politics were a little bit underrepresented. Would have liked to know a little bit more about the politics, right? The very end, which I liked, in chapter 7, Murderbot is confronted by 4 sec units and 3 other humans that are have colored outfits on, and all Murderbot says is, right, it's a blue, green, and yellow, and blue talks a lot, and Murderbot just assumes that blue is the commander, but you know nothing more, right? And when blue speaks, of course they're out to kill our team, part of the book, but when blue speaks, it's a little bit dry, and it feels menacing because of the situation that we're in. But that goes back to the unreliable narrator thing. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more politics, the sci-fi stuff, and really just let's flesh out more of these ancillary characters. I'd like to give a quick shout out to the final chapter. I did a video, released it yesterday. The epilogue, excellent. Excellent epilogue. Ready to move on to the second book. And I'll go ahead and tell you about my predictions about the second book. But first I want to say, this book reminds me of the first disc of the 90s Final Fantasy game. I don't know how many people have played those games, but in the first disc of those games, as well as Legend of the Dragoon or other JRPGs, in the first disc, you kind of are just following through with the narrative that is given to you at the beginning of the game. In most cases, the moment that first disc ends, all hell breaks loose. Everything changes. After the first 7 to 10 hours of gameplay, it gets weird. Things hit the fan hard. In Final Fantasy VIII, they wake up in a prison. They didn't start in a prison. And shit's getting weird. Real hard. Real fast. So that's where I kind of imagine book 2 going. And that's what I was going to say, is we're going to be starting book 2 tomorrow. So I imagine that Murderbot is going to be off-world and find out that the world without control, the world without a governor module, the world without instruction sucks, because that's what happened to a 13-year-old. If a 13-year-old were to walk out of their parents' home and say, fuck this, I'm out, I'm gonna go do my own thing, within a couple of weeks it'd be like, oh, this sucks, no one respects me, no one cares what I have to say, I don't have any money, I don't have any resources, I'm not capable of doing anything other, in this case, murdering people. So that's where I think we'll be. This sucks, and it will be doing something that it kind of hates and would rather go back to being in the service of Dr. Minsay. That's where we're going to start. That's my prediction. And I also predict that the world's going to get quite a bit bigger. The universe is going to get quite a bit bigger. Almost all of this story of the first book took place on a singular planet, and actually in the same continent, in the same area, right? I'm thinking we're going to see a lot more from the world, from the universe, I hope, from the politics, and we get to watch Murderbot grow as an individual. I hope it gets a name. It'd be nice if Murderbot got a name that wasn't Murderbot, but it is called the Murderbot Diaries, so maybe not. And I'd be interested to see if Murderbot runs into a situation where it wants or craves a mate. It does talk about in the final chapter that it bargains with a cargo ship bot, a bot that drives a cargo ship, with regard to moving itself off planet. And it bargains with sharing some of its entertainment that it's downloaded to watch with the cargo ship bot, which also watches entertainment. So I'll be interested in see if there's a Netflix and chill situation, which would be fun. But I think that's all I've got for you. All in all, a great read. Once again, I'd give that to a 13-year-old. Say, here you go. You don't like reading? You'll like this. It gets a little weird. It's fun. It's easy to talk to. It's easy to conceptualize these things. Hey, what did you like about this book? Hey, what did you not like about this book? Hey, what did you like about this chapter? What did you not like about this chapter? And it's super simple to do those things. Once again, wish there was a little bit more construction around the people, places, and things. However, if you have a little bit of an imagination, you can make it work, and you can really enjoy the content. So that's all I have for you, but I think we'll jump into Martha Wells' Artificial Condition tomorrow, chapter 1. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good read, and I went ahead and got the hardback book because I'm a weirdo. And we'll see how it goes. So, until next time, later, taters.